All right, so this deep dive, you really wanted to know about technology's impact on our brains.
Mm.
And you've given us some seriously interesting stuff to work with here. We've got excerpts from the Financial Times, an article titled, "The Human Mind is in a Recession." One from Pursuit, "As AI Gets Smarter, Are We Getting Dumber?" And another one from the Harvard Business Review called, "Taking a Break Doesn't Always Mean Unplugging." So we're going to try and unpack all of this
Yeah.
and see if maybe all this tech reliance is actually leading to something we could maybe call like AI apathy, a decline in our own brain power as machines get smarter.
Yeah, it's a really timely question, I think. And it's not just theoretical either. I mean, the Financial Times piece, I think, really brings home the economic side of this,
Mm.
introducing this idea of brain capital.
Okay, brain capital. I like it. Sounds
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, it really is. It's essentially our cognitive health skills and potential. And the FT argues that, this is becoming like the key asset of the 21st century. If you think about it, machines, they can do manual labor. They're getting better and better at, routine thinking tasks. What makes us valuable, what makes us uniquely human is really, the critical thinking, the creative problem solving,
Mm.
those sort of high level skills.
But the article doesn't exactly paint a very rosy picture of how we're managing this brain capital, does it? I mean, that $16 trillion figure for the cost of brain health issues by 2030, that's pretty alarming.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
it's a staggering number, and it
Yeah.
really highlights, the growing scale of this problem. We're talking dementia, Alzheimer's, yes,
Mhm.
but also, the rising rates of depression, anxiety just across the board. I mean, this isn't just some, far off economic problem.
Yeah.
This is something that affects, everyone's well-being and potential.
Right. Okay, so we've established brains are valuable, potentially in trouble. The Pursuit article kind of seems to dig into like the why of this, talking about the attention economy. Can you maybe break that down for us a
Oh,
little?
yeah. So the attention economy is this idea that our attention is a finite resource, right? And every app notification piece of content out there is battling it out for a slice of that attention. It's almost like our brains are stuck in this constant tug of war.
And we're not imagining it, right? The stats back that up. I mean, screen time has gone from 9 hours a day in 2012 to 11 in 2019.
And that was pre-pandemic. Imagine where those numbers are now. I think the thing is that technology isn't just passively vying for our attention. It's designed to hook us. It's those dopamine hits that keep us scrolling and clicking, even when we know we should probably be doing something else.
So how does this translate into like real world impact? The Financial Times had that interesting point about Super Bowl ad prices.
Oh yeah. Right. So the cost of 1,000 impressions during the Super Bowl
Mm.
has just, absolutely skyrocketed over the years. And it's a very concrete way of seeing how much more expensive it is to capture our attention now. Advertisers literally have to pay a premium to cut through the noise.
That's a great analogy. Like the price of our attention itself is going up. But it's not just about ads, right? This
Yeah.
information overload has broader effects.
Absolutely. Just think about the mental energy it takes to constantly filter information, right? Decide what's worth paying attention to, what to ignore. I mean, that's exhausting in itself. And the Pursuit article talks about this. The mental fatigue, impaired memory, increased stress, and even potential links to things like depression and ADHD. So it's not just a matter of, feeling scattered or overwhelmed. This overload could actually be changing how our brains function.
So we're swimming in information, attention's fractured. But
Yeah.
how does that actually damage like the development of skills? I think that's where things get really worrying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. The Financial Times article, notes that employers are increasingly seeking, skills like creativity, resilience, analytical thinking, basically the ability to handle complexity.
But those are exactly the skills that suffer under this constant digital distraction, right? It's like this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Too much info, we get stressed and fatigued,
Mm.
which makes it harder to do like the deep thinking needed to build those very skills.
Exactly. And what's alarming is that we're seeing declines even in like basic skills. The FT article mentions that literacy proficiency has actually dropped in many developed countries in the last decade.
Like seriously, literacy's going down. That's shocking.
It is. The
Yeah.
picture for numeracy is mixed, but there are some concerning trends there too. And Pursuit has some interesting theories as to why this might be happening.
Okay, all ears laid on me.
Well, one thought is that, we rely so heavily on smartphones for calculations now that we're just not exercising those mental math muscles anymore. We're essentially outsourcing basic thinking to our devices.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so convenient to just pull out your phone and calculate something, but are we losing something in the process?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's not just math. The article talks about, the vocabulary possibly declining due to changes in reading habits. And then there's, the Google
Oh
effect.
yeah, the Google effect. That's where we treat Google like an external hard drive for our brains.
Yeah.
We don't even bother remembering
Oh.
things because we know we can just look them up instantly.
Exactly. And that ease of access might actually be hurting our ability to form, strong, lasting memories. We trade long-term knowledge for short-term convenience.
Okay, all right. So we're seeing potential hits to literacy, numeracy, memory. Well, what about the higher level stuff like critical thinking and analysis? Are those being affected too?
Unfortunately, yes. Both articles, talk about how algorithms and echo chambers can actually worsen our biases and make us less critical thinkers.
Because we're only seeing information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Exactly. We get stuck in these filter bubbles where we're constantly fed the same perspectives, and it becomes harder and harder to step outside of those bubbles and engage in, real thoughtful debate.
It's like we're losing the ability to see the other side,
Mm.
to understand different viewpoints. I mean, that's a huge problem, especially in our increasingly polarized world. The Pursuit article kind of goes deep on this, talking about how newsfeed algorithms and clickbait are actually reinforcing these biases.
Yeah, and the FT even ties it to rising political polarization, pointing out how, people's views on the economy, for example,
Yeah.
seem to be increasingly tied to their political leanings.
Which is a perfect example of how this isn't just about being smart, it's about how we function as a society.
Right. Our brains need to be challenged. They need to wrestle with different ideas to engage in this like productive struggle, as the articles call it. That's how we develop those higher level thinking skills. But in some ways, technology makes it too easy to avoid that struggle.
So does that mean we're doomed? Are we doomed to become, just these passive consumers of information,
Hmm.
just letting technology do all our thinking for us?
Mhm.
Is there any way to navigate this and stay sharp?
That's the million-dollar question. Thankfully, both articles, offer some hope. We'll dive into those in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so last we left off, things were looking kind of grim for our brains in this like tech-heavy world. But these articles weren't all doom and gloom, were they? They offered some like solutions too, right? We don't just have to surrender to AI apathy.
Exactly, yeah. And the good news is it's not about like rejecting technology altogether. It's about using it wisely, strategically,
Hmm.
in a way that enhances our thinking, not replaces it.
So how do we do that? What are some practical things that we can do to like stay sharp in this AI-driven world?
Well, both the Pursuit and Financial Times articles, they offer some really cool strategies. One that really stood out to me was this idea of like productive struggle, which Pursuit really dives into.
Yeah, that concept really resonated with me too. It's about how our brains need a certain level of difficulty to really learn and retain information. If things are too easy, if AI is always there to just give us the answer, our brains kind of just switch off.
Right, exactly. Think about it like physical exercise.
Uh-huh.
It's way more satisfying to hike to the top of a mountain than to just take a helicopter up there. The view might be the same, but the sense of accomplishment, the resilience you build, the things you learn along the way, those are totally different.
So how do we apply that like productive struggle idea to using AI?
Well, one way is to use AI as a thinking partner, not a crutch. Don't just let it do all the work. Think of it as a tool to enhance your own thinking process.
So like using AI to brainstorm ideas,
Yeah,
but then still writing your own essays like the article suggested.
exactly. Or using AI to help analyze data. But then you step in and you critically evaluate those findings. You draw your own conclusions. It's about staying actively involved, not just passively consuming output.
That makes a lot of sense. The FT article also talked about the importance of like prioritizing process over easy answers,
Yeah.
both in education and the workplace.
Yeah, that's key. We need to shift our focus from simply getting the right answer to understanding how we got there,
Yeah.
explaining our reasoning, exploring different approaches, thinking independently. That's how we build those crucial critical thinking skills.
If we're always just looking for the quick and easy solution, we're kind of missing out on the real learning and growth that comes from like wrestling with a challenge.
Absolutely. And sometimes, that means intentionally stepping away from technology and practicing what they call unplugged thinking.
But a digital detox.
It could be that. Or even just, setting aside some time each day to just read a physical book, write in a journal, have a conversation without, constantly checking your phone. It's about giving your brain a break from that constant digital stimulation
So
and allowing space for deep creative thought.
I like that. It's almost like giving your brain some quiet time to process everything it's taking in.
Hmm.
The Pursuit article also talked about being critical of AI itself, right? Like not just taking it at face value.
Yeah, definitely. Understanding AI's limitations and biases is crucial. It's easy to assume that AI is always objective and neutral, but that's not true. AI is created by humans, so it reflects our own biases and limitations.
So we can't just blindly accept whatever AI tells us. We need to be aware of those potential biases
Yeah.
and think critically about the information it presents.
Exactly. And that leads to another really interesting idea from Pursuit, using AI as like a Socratic tutor.
Oh, I love that. Instead of just spitting out the answers, AI can guide us towards those answers by asking questions that make us think for ourselves and arrive at our own conclusions.
Right. It's a brilliant way to use the power of AI without sacrificing our own cognitive engagement. AI becomes a facilitator of learning, not a replacement for it.
So it's about striking that balance, finding that sweet spot where AI can augment our intelligence
Mm.
without actually diminishing it. And that kind of brings us to the Harvard Business Review article,
Mm.
which takes a little bit of a different angle. How to take breaks effectively in this digital age.
Yeah, because even with the best strategies, our brains still need time to rest and recharge.
I think a lot of people feel guilty about taking breaks, especially if those breaks involve screens. It's like we've been conditioned to think that a real break means completely disconnecting from technology.
The HBR article challenges that assumption, though. It argues that the right kind of screen-based activities can be just as beneficial as offline breaks. It's about being intentional about what we do during our downtime, whether we're online or off.
So it's not about unplugging entirely. It's about choosing activities that help us recharge, even if those activities happen to involve screens.
Exactly. The key is to focus on activities that offer movement, social connection, or cognitive stimulation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me some examples. What are some tech-based breaks that actually fit that criteria?
Well, how about an on-screen workout? There are so many fun apps and games these days that combine physical activity with entertainment. Things like Beat Saber or Wii Sports, or even just getting outside and playing Pokemon Go. It's a way to get your blood pumping, your endorphins flowing, and maybe even catch a few Pokemon while you're at it.
I love that. You're not just saying, go watch TV and veg out.
Yeah.
It's about engaging your body and your mind in a different way,
Yeah.
even if it's through a screen.
Exactly. And speaking of engaging the mind, the article also talks about the power of music, specifically singing.
Oh yeah, karaoke. Count me in. It's such a good stress reliever.
There's actually a lot of research suggesting that singing, especially group singing, can have a huge impact on our well-being.
There's like an emotional release, a way to express ourselves and connect with others.
Exactly. And if you're not quite ready to belt it out in a karaoke bar, there's always YouTube karaoke.
Great idea. Just fire up your favorite song and sing along. No judgment from the YouTube algorithm. The article also mentioned taking a story break by listening to audiobooks.
Oh, audiobooks are amazing. You can listen while you walk, cook, do chores, anything. It's such a great way to escape into another world and give your brain a break from work or the daily grind.
I'm a huge audiobook fan myself. And the article pointed out that fiction in particular can be really good for boosting empathy and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it's like a workout for your emotional muscles.
Love it.
Yeah.
What else did they recommend?
Well, there's the idea of a conversation break by engaging in audio-only social networks like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces. Those platforms are great for spontaneous, unscripted conversations, hearing different viewpoints, and just having some fun.
I've actually been getting into Clubhouse lately. It's so interesting to listen to conversations on different topics and sometimes even jump in and participate myself.
Yeah, those kinds of interactions can be really valuable for creativity and innovation.
It's like those water cooler moments at the office where you have a random chat with a colleague and suddenly you spark a new idea.
Exactly. And finally, the article suggested using technology to help us declutter our physical spaces. Might seem counterintuitive, but
I totally get it. When my space is clean and organized, I actually think more clearly.
there's research that backs that up. Clutter can be distracting and stressful, so even something as simple as using your phone to create labels or set reminders to tidy up can have a positive impact on your mental state.
And the article also recommended using technology for like brain-boosting activities, like playing games or using a home assistant for cognitive challenges.
Yes, engaging in mentally stimulating activities, whether it's a word game on your phone or a trivia challenge with your smart speaker, can help keep your brain sharp and agile.
So it's about being mindful of our choices, not just passively scrolling, but using technology in a way that recharges us. This has been a really interesting look at the impact of technology on our brains. What's the main takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, the challenges of the attention economy, the risks of AI apathy, but also some practical strategies for staying sharp in this like tech-saturated world. What's the big takeaway? What do you really want our listener to walk away with? I think the most important message is that AI presents incredible opportunities, but there are real challenges, to our cognitive abilities. It's a tool and a powerful one, but we decide how we use it. Do we let it weaken our thinking, or do we use it to enhance our intelligence and reach new heights of creativity?
It's like that saying, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. AI can give us the answers, but we need to learn how to find them ourselves, too.
Exactly. Great analogy. Which brings us to the key question for our listener. How will you harness the power of AI while also nurturing your own brain capital?
Wow.
How do you avoid falling into that AI apathy trap?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And there's no one-size-fits-all answer, is there? But I think the strategies that we've talked about are a good starting point.
Absolutely. Think critically about the information you consume. Be mindful of your tech habits. Prioritize deep thinking and productive struggle. Use AI as a partner, not a replacement. Take breaks that truly recharge you. These are all things you can do right now to stay sharp in this, rapidly changing world.
And it's not just about individual effort, is it? I mean, we need to think about how we design our education systems, workplaces,
Mm-hmm.
even our social structures, to encourage deep thinking and cognitive well-being.
I think that's crucial. We need environments that value, curiosity,
Mm.
critical thinking, problem solving. If
Mm.
we only reward speed and efficiency, if the easy answer is always the best answer, then we risk creating a world where AI apathy becomes the norm.
And that's a future we definitely want to avoid. The future of thinking is in our hands, and I believe we can make it a bright one if we approach AI with both wisdom and vigilance.
I couldn't agree more. So, to our listener, I say this: embrace AI's power, but don't let it define you. Nurture your own brain capital. Stay curious, keep learning, and never stop asking questions. The world needs your unique intelligence, your creativity, your ability to solve problems. Don't let those gifts fade away. Use them to make the world a better, brighter, more thoughtful place.
That's a fantastic message to end on. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of ideas that matter.